Wale, and it showed. He was bright, charming, and loved by everyone. I was Wale's childhood friend, and eventually, his first love. Our bond was strong from the very start, and by the time we were teens, everyone in the village expected us to end up together. Wale had big dreams. He wasn't content with just the life of a farmer's son. He wanted to see the world, learn, and make a difference. When he received a scholarship to study in England, it was both a blessing and a curse. "Bisi, this is my chance," he said one night, as we sat under the baobab tree. The moonlight cast shadows around us, and his face was illuminated with excitement. "I'm going to study at one of the best universities in the world. I'll come back, I promise. We'll have everything we've ever dreamed of." I smiled, but my heart ached. I knew how important this was to him, but the thought of him being so far away terrified me. "I'll wait for you, Wale. But please, don't forget me. Don't forget where you came from." "I could never forget you, Bisi," he said, pulling me close. "You're my home." We said our goodbyes with heavy hearts, each of us trying to be brave for the other. Wale's departure was a grand affair. The whole village turned out to see him off. The air was thick with pride and sadness, and I watched as the car carrying him to the airport disappeared down the dusty road. The first few months were filled with letters. Wale wrote about his new life, his excitement about the courses, the strange new foods, the cold weather, and the new friends he was making. But with each letter, there was a growing distance in his words, a sense of detachment that I couldn't ignore. Then the letters began to change. They were less frequent, shorter, and tinged with a sense of unease. "Everything is different here," he wrote in one letter. "I feel like I'm losing myself. I don't know what's happening." I tried to reassure him, but the gap between his words and my understanding of his world grew wider. I wrote back, urging him to talk to someone at the university, but my letters went unanswered. One day, a message arrived from the university. It was a formal letter, filled with legal jargon and an air of finality. Wale had been in an accident. They said he had been struck by a car while walking home from a study group. He was unconscious and in critical condition. My heart dropped. I packed a bag and went to the village elder, asking for advice. She looked at me with a grave expression. "You need to go to him, Bisi. But be prepared. Things might not be as you hope." I traveled to England with a heavy heart, my mind racing with fears and what-ifs. When I arrived at the hospital, I was met with a cold, sterile atmosphere that seemed to sap the warmth from my body. I was led to Wale's room, and what I saw there was almost too much to bear. Wale lay in a hospital bed, his body covered with bruises and bandages. His face was pale, his eyes closed, and he looked so small, so fragile. I held his hand, praying for a miracle. As days turned into weeks, Wale's condition did not improve. He remained in a coma, and the doctors could only offer vague hopes. I stayed by his side, speaking to him, telling him stories of home, and begging him to wake up. But there was no response. One night, as I sat alone in his hospital room, the door creaked open. A nurse stepped in, her face expressionless. "Bisi," she said quietly, "we need to talk." Her words were like a punch to the gut. "What's wrong?" She hesitated before speaking. "There's something we haven't told you. Wale's condition is worsening. We believe that the accident triggered a rare and severe neurological condition. It's possible he might not wake up." I felt my world collapsing around me. I spent the night praying and crying, the weight of the nurse's words pressing down on me like a leaden blanket. The days that followed were a blur of hospital corridors and silent prayers. Wale's parents arrived, their faces etched with anguish. We gathered around his bedside, trying to hold on to hope even as it slipped further away. One evening, as I sat alone with Wale, I felt a strange chill in the room. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, I saw a shadow move across the wall. My heart raced. The air grew colder, and I felt an oppressive heaviness settling over me. Suddenly, Wale's fingers twitched. My heart leaped, but when I looked closer, I saw his eyes flutter open, but there was no recognition in them. His gaze was distant, as if he was seeing something far beyond the room. "Bisi," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm so scared. I can't find my way back." Tears streamed down my face. "Well, you're here. You're safe. Please, just come back to us." But his eyes closed again, and the room fell into a suffocating silence. The next day, Wale's condition worsened, and the doctors told us there was nothing more they could do. I felt as though I was being torn apart, my dreams shattered. Wale's parents wept openly, their sorrow a reflection of my own. One night, as I sat beside him, I felt an overwhelming sense of despair. I spoke to Wale, telling him how much I loved him and how sorry I was that he had to go through this. I begged him to hold on, to fight. But as the hours passed, Wale's breathing grew shallower. I watched as the light slowly faded from his eyes, my heart breaking with each labored breath he took. Finally, as the first light of dawn crept into the room, Wale's breathing stopped. The room fell into an unbearable silence. The days that followed were filled with mourning. Wale's parents struggled to cope with their loss, their home filled with a profound emptiness. I returned to our village, a hollow shell of the person I used to be. The dreams that had once been full of promise and hope were now just distant memories. I often find myself returning to the baobab tree where Wale and I spent so many happy moments. It stands there, a silent witness to our love and our loss. I sit beneath it, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I can almost hear Wale's voice calling out to me from beyond, a haunting reminder of what we once had. Wale's promise to return was never fulfilled, and the dreams we shared remain unfulfilled. I carry his memory with me, a constant reminder of the boy who loved me so deeply and left this world too soon. The English sky, which once held so much promise, became a place of sorrow and loss. And as I sit beneath the baobab tree, I can only hope that Wale has finally found the peace he was searching for, even as I am left to grapple with the emptiness he left behind.